So, are you struggling to choose the right career path, or perhaps feeling like you're not living as authentically as you'd like? Well, today we're going to talk about the relationship between life purpose and your career and how you can use purpose to help boost you on that career journey. I'm Dr. Geneva, your host, vibrant life coach and leadership strategist. Now, listen, I've led multi-million dollar organizations with hundreds of employees. And one of the most frequent questions that I get is, how do I know if I'm on the right career path? It's a question we've all asked ourselves at some point in our life. We look for meaning, we're trying to connect it. Do we have the right job? Are we in the right, what we doing, the right work path? And so, what is the connection between having a purpose and your career? So now there's some differing opinions. Some think purpose and career, they go hand in hand, while others think they are two completely different things. Sometimes that purpose in life is not easy to find, and so some struggle to find that purpose. Now, I want you to know that my blog on how to find your purpose and direction, I want you to go check that out because I help you find some steps to find your purpose in life. And I believe that being clear about your purpose and having an understanding about yourself and your values can be a helpful way to choose and stay on the right career path. And guess what? Today, have with me Master Career Strategist and author Dr. Lisa Wicker, who will join in today's conversation on the very best ways to use your purpose to guide your career journey. So let me tell you about Dr. Lisa Wicker. Dr. Wicker is to career development what the fairy godmother is to Cinderella. She embodies hope, access, wisdom, and encouragement for you to participate in your own success. She's well known for her human resources executive leadership at places like General Motors, Chrysler, MGM Grand, and Lowe's Home Improvement. Today, Lisa leads her team at Linwick and Associates, a global HR firm that is dedicated to creating that organizational value through people. Now, on her platform and through her company, many of you have heard about and have attended, and I plan to get down to Atlanta in 2023, her prestigious Career Master Diversity Summit and Women's Leadership Awards. And Dr. Lisa says, as one asked her, well, why do you have this conference and why do you give out these leadership awards? She says, quote, today's women leaders are game changers. They take charge of their careers and charge of their futures. These women have made their mark in business and are exceptional, strong role models of what a woman can do. All right, now, giving recognition to these deserving women will also inspire future generations, end quote. So, see, that's what she believes and she feels. And then many of you probably also have read and get your subscription to, if you haven't, her Career Mastered magazine. Oh, yes, it provides a voice for the everyday career woman. So you can see why I'm absolutely thrilled and decided that I got my soror, Dr. Lisa Wicker, with me. Come on in and say hello to everyone around the world. How you doing, Dr. Lisa?
Hey, good morning, Dr. Geneva. My goodness, I love the introduction, but more importantly, you're already having fun, and I'm
I
ready to
am.
have fun with you.
I am. Well, I'm having fun and I'm excited. And you know why I'm excited? I'm really thrilled because I know we're going to drop some value. And so, Chris, how you doing this morning? Alexandra, we're so delighted to see you. And Robert, welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those of you who are tuning in from Detroit, we say a special welcome because Dr. Lisa, is from Detroit. So we got you back home, right?
Yes, absolutely. I was just there and I'm on my way back there for Labor Day. Yep.
Okay, all right. Well, Dr. Lisa, let's just jump right in. There are so many folk who, not only struggle to find their purpose, but try to, kind of figure out, well, what does that have to do with my career? So let's get started in our conversation with first exploring this relationship between purpose and career. What do you think
Wow.
that is?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that you and I both know that as we've gone the journey of our careers, certainly there was no direct point. And for me, it's all about helping women to master their careers, encouraging them to take back their voice, have the power to do the things that they want to do, but be able to win in the marketplace, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so, but getting to the point of mastering your career does not happen overnight. And
Okay,
so for me, even in my own journey, I'm going to answer your question. I just want to set up the framework here. Getting
please.
to this point in my career, for example, was not linear.
Okay.
Exactly. It came with bumps, it came with
Mhm.
bruises, it came with excitement,
Mm.
disillusionment, peaks and
Mhm.
valleys.
Uh-huh.
And so when we think about the word career and we think about purpose, yes, for some it combines, for others it hasn't just yet. But let's
Okay.
face it, figuring out what you want to do with your life can be stressful.
Okay.
And the single most important factor for us is finding what's purposeful as we go this journey through life. And while this is the gold, finding our purpose can be elusive, quite frankly. Look at the world today as we consider social media and the influencers that are out there, the perpetual idea that you have to be something that is not necessarily for you, that you have to look at someone else and wish that that was you,
Yes.
nearly impossible to just stay focused, right? And so, as you talk about what and when do I know if I'm on the right career path and whether or not that purpose is there, the thing that I want people to think about are three P's. And
Okay.
the first P is what's pulling you.
All right.
We will know, for example, whether or not we're on the right track when this pull, this desire, this inspiration that we wake up with every day in our hearts that we want to do, although we might not be in that space just yet, right?
Mhm.
But it's pulling you, right? So
Okay.
if there's something that's pulling you and that gnaw and that nudge is constant, don't
Mhm.
ignore it.
So
It's
that's
there.
something that's like that, kind of deep feeling that you have, or you wake up in the morning and it's there, or you go to sleep at night, something. So, we need to pay attention
You
to it.
have
That's
to
what
pay
you're saying.
attention to that
Okay.
because it's not there just because it happened. It's constant with you. It's
Okay.
constantly on your mind. You think about it, you wake up. That really pulls you to the second P, which is your passion. Obviously, there's some passion about whatever that's pulling you, whether it's to become a photographer, to become an actress, or to feed 10,000 people in Africa. Whatever that pull is, it becomes like the passion.
Okay.
The third P that I want us to think about when we talk about career and we talk about purpose, and this is just what I've done over life. And
Mhm.
I wish someone had taught me some things that I'm now teaching other women,
Mhm.
but particularly the prayer part of it. Okay.
Oh
The
my
prayer
God.
part of it is
Yes.
so important. Those three P's.
Ooh,
And the reason I say about
talk
the
that
prayer,
stuff. Preach that stuff, Dr.
yes, the
Lisa.
reason
Yeah,
I
go
say about
ahead.
the, what you say, Dr. Geneva?
No, I was saying preach it.
Yeah,
Because
the
you're
reason I
right,
say about the
because
prayer
it's
stuff is
not
if it's
just the
pulling you
yeah,
and you've even had a dream about it, it's inspiring you because our dreams and our desires don't happen on our own. As spiritual beings, it's something there in you side of you that you were meant to do and meant to
mhm,
be. And so
mhm,
that pull is constantly gnawing at you that passionately, that's really where I want to be. And you start to pray about those
okay.
things, right? So you have
Yes.
understanding about what it is you're trying to get to because you're not there yet,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
so I consider those to be the three principles of how you start to understand your journey towards this thing called career and
Okay.
purpose. Now,
Okay.
now,
So Dr. Lisa, let me just stop us here only just to say good morning to Leah and Carol. Thank you for joining in the conversation. That's Carol. By the way, Carol's my home girl from the Jersey Shore. So I'm so glad you're with us today. Now, Dr. Lisa, as we talk about this pull, passion, and prayer, so I got to ask you, because this is the question that we get from so many of our in our community, is that, well, so I got something pulling me and I got this passion, but the gig that I'm in, the gig that I'm doing, or the job that I'm in doesn't match. Like,
right,
I got this pull to be a singer, but I'm here as a systems computer analysis.
right, which
So
is
so that connection, that career purpose, talk a little bit
so so
about that
so
and how you
so
balance that.
understanding the difference between a job, because we all have to have a job. Basically, you're in a job to pay your bills. You have to have a roof over your head. You have to have food on your table. And those jobs pay for that. And so you and I are not having a conversation about not going to work and having a job. What we're having a
Okay.
conversation about is how do we start to line up those experiences to become a career that matters, right? And so, even though that job doesn't look like it benefits you today, I will tell you reflectively, every job that I've had has been part of this master plan and this journey that God has given me today to be a career strategist and an HR executive. Every element of that has honed me into the person I am today. So we can't um, dis, disregard the jobs. The jobs
Okay.
are part of the
Practical.
process.
I
It's
mean,
part
it's
of the process.
practical because you got to pay your
You
bills
got to pay
and
your bills. And I
and
often tell
eat.
people, don't quit your job. Keep that
Right.
day job, okay?
Okay.
But at the end of the day, if there's something that's pulling you and gnawing you and that passion is there, you might have to do that on the side. And I'll give you an
Okay.
example, particularly from
Please.
myself.
Yeah.
Um, while I was doing and taking care of my career through an intern from General Motors all the way to become an executive and enter the C-suite at other companies, it was because every element of those jobs made the path for me to be able to start to see some things that I liked and some things that I did not like,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
And to be
mhm.
able to start to master the plan that I had intentions for. But while I was mastering that job, okay, I often found myself doing things on the outside of that job in the marketplace, started my own business while I was working, started my own publishing company while I was working. Those were the things that was calling me, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so we're not one dimensional people.
mhm,
We multitask, and so
mhm,
from the multidimensional part of me, I wasn't getting satisfaction in that job at that
mhm,
time. So I
mhm.
found that I needed to do some things that my passion was honing to. And so at that
So,
point, those things helped me understand that my capabilities were far greater than what that job was giving me, right?
mhm. So
And
you were
so I
able
want to
to.
just, I'm sorry, I want to
No,
just say this and then
no, no, no,
I'll stop.
please.
The reason that you have that job, right, is a testing also. I want us to understand the testing in a job, right? Because it teaches you a whole lot about you and the
Mm,
access point, ladies and men that are listening, to discover the path that is right for you is what I call your cultural story. And that's in my new
mm,
book. The cultural story, which is really who are you, is so important to this topic of career and purpose, right? So when you understand culturally who you are, that means your values, your strengths, your weaknesses, right? And all
mhm.
the things that make up you, until you start to get centered on what that means, right? You will not necessarily start to align towards that destiny point, right? So to me, the cultural story is the bridge to your destiny so that when you start to get that pull, you're on your way to attain purpose.
Ah, yes. And I love how you talk about it as, a process, that it's a journey. It's just not like here and, you discover it and then you got it. and then you move on, but that it's a journey of evolving and growing, as well as getting to know yourself, and making sure that you're clear on who you are. And you mentioned your new book, Capacity, and so I'm so delighted that you're here now, so that you'll be able to, that folk will be able to see and hear about Dr. Lisa's new book. So, Dr. Lisa, let's explore this knowing yourself and the career
Okay.
pathway
Okay.
a little more, because as Chris says, exactly where I am, it's not matching up. Okay. So how do you let's talk about some specific how to's, some
Okay.
steps.
Hmm.
So let's take Chris's question. So what are some of the steps we need to do to match up our career and purpose? Of course, one of the things that you put out early on
Hmm.
is knowing yourself,
Yeah.
knowing your strengths. And
Hmm.
I believe it's important to, on a regular basis, to inventory your, what you're good at,
Hmm.
where your talents are, what your
Hmm.
skills are. So what are some of the steps that you see, Dr. Lisa, are so important as we try to match up this
So
career and
the first
purpose?
thing that I share with my clients
Mhm.
is again getting centered about who you are.
Okay.
Until you start to take assessment of you, then we will continue to be searching for
Mhm.
something that we have not targeted. And so, one of the things that I teach is once you understand your cultural story, and there's a process for that, I walk you and women through the process of defining who you are. And it's pretty raw, Dr. Geneva.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty raw, and it's raw for a reason. Because until you start to answer what frustrates you, right? What
Yes.
inspires you, what excites you, what disappoints you, why you are feeling stuck. I mean, we have to go through those things and
Yes.
assessment to quiet all the noise, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So one of the things that I find to be very common with a lot of us high achieving women is that we're so busy being busy that we can't stop to quiet the noise
Mhm.
to really understand what it is that we want, right? So it's a
Mhm.
wanting, which is talking about the pulling, right? So some
Okay.
steps that I first agree with the women that I talk with is let's get clear about who you are.
Okay.
And I have some
Mhm.
tools for that, right?
Mhm.
Once
Mhm.
we understand the who you are, right? Then what is it that you want? If you're 90
Okay.
years old and you're talking to your grandchildren about what you did and how you were in your career, what is it that you're going to tell them that you're leaving as a legacy, right? So if
Yes.
you're trying to get to that legacy point of which is what purpose is, by the way, purpose is the result of an impact so that there's a legacy left so that when you're gone, all right, there's something here that you were able to accomplish and do for others. That's how I
Mhm.
see purpose,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
So every day when you're working and you're trying to get to that place of what am I doing and how can I align, once you understand who you are, then we put that into your branding. What brand do you bring to the table, right? Which means I might look at everything you've done, and in that analysis of what you've done in your career so far, is there a brand strategy? Is there a branding that we can pull to understand what and how you're showing up today? It might
Mhm.
not still be what you want to do tomorrow, but I need to see what is it you're doing today, because
Yes.
what your current state is really a sum of that times your future state minus the barriers and limitations of what it is you're trying to get to tomorrow. And so there's a process that I walk you through. And once
Mhm.
you understand that process, it's not as simple as people think that, oh, I can be Kim Kardashian or I can be, believe me, those people, believe me, ladies, uh, how they got there is not you and I,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
what we're trying to do is be realistic about what in the world am I looking to do so that I feel good about my talents as well as my skills and what I'm purposed to do with those things in this life. And so
Yes.
the process would be your story, bridge to your destiny. And inside of that, we do the tools that take you to an analysis of your brand, because what you want to be able to do is have the ability to articulate your brand authority. So if I were to ask you today, Dr. Geneva, what is your brand authority and how do you articulate that in 5 seconds to somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Most women, and I'm talking to us women and men, if you're on here, I do talk to some men
Yes,
as
we
well.
have both. I want you to know that, Dr. Lisa. We
Oh,
got
good, good,
both
good.
up in here
Hey,
because
hey
this is
guys, I'm
all,
not eliminating
yeah.
you boys. I have sons. I have sons,
Yes.
believe me.
This is
And
all about leadership tips, business tips, those things that
right.
that you want
Or
to have to make a difference, to, be vibrant, live that vibrant life and transform your mindset into confidence.
right,
And that's why we talking about this purpose and career.
right. And so the whole point is once you understand your brand authority, then we start to map out a method that I have, which is called the
Mhm.
Kappa model. And that
Okay.
Kappa model walks you through the altitude pyramid that certainly will get you to that North Star. Now, you asked me some time ago about the North
Yes.
Star, and
Yeah,
I
so let me
considered,
set that up for our
okay,
listeners. So, um, Dr. Lisa and I have had, conversations. Her career master. I showed y'all her magazine, did I not? Yes. Okay. Career master. And this particular issue that I love, this is one of my favorites on HBCU Queens. Yeah, look at that gorgeous, gorgeous cover. And so, at being an HBCU or myself, Morgan State, and on the foundation board there, the conversation about this whole North Star. And really, I've asked the question about, we hear so many stories about what people have done in the past, and particularly in our culture of African American women and men, we ask, if our ancestors, who always talked about the North Star, if they could journey through the night and use the North Star as their guidance, why is it so difficult for us often to find our North Star?
yeah,
And the question really is, that constant journey that we go through when we're looking to find our way,
yes,
our direction. And Dr. Lisa, I love this, concept about North Star.
yes, yes. Well, what the term I use it because of my grandfather. I was reared in the Mississippi Delta, and I
Yes.
learned early on that I had to reach for a goal based on how I used to go for walks with him as he did his job, and he taught me towards I was going to get to that North Star by following him. And when I followed him and walked with him, he would give me a quarter, and that quarter taught me how to have a goal, right? And little did I know that that's what he was teaching me during that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But certainly, as I reflect back on it, it was a motivation for me. And so when you talk about the ancestors in the journey, that's really interesting when you said Starry Night. Well, yeah, that North Star. What was the North Star for them, right? And it
Right.
was to have freedom. And it was to make sure that the people had an opportunity to live. Well, motivation in my mind is what gets you started. It got them
Mhm.
started. But
Mhm.
what helped them was commitment, is what kept them going, right? So for us, it's the same. Motivation will get us started. And we have motivation like that, but it's gone tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Commitment is what keeps you going. And so life happens and we get busy and distracted. But the North Star can only be accomplished through your commitment, right?
Mhm.
And commitment is not merely keeping the promise that you made to yourself, it includes dedication, hard work, and tenacity. And
Yes.
much of what I believe is a factor in purpose and career is the word commitment. It's part of my 7 C's in the book
Okay.
Capacity. If commitment is not there, then you're just doing to be doing. It's not gonna happen, because life rewards action when you're consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Okay.
for me, the North Star is that altitude, and the capacity that you have today. Are you using it so that you can climb that altitude? And part of that altitude in your career, and this part of the process that I take you through, is like understanding Maslow's hierarchy, right? And so each step of your career is part of the altitude to get to that purpose. And I
Yeah.
use the example, and this is a very basic example. We all, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have gone to college, and a lot of us have gotten degrees. That was a goal, it's
Mm-hmm.
part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the degree is not the end game.
Mm-hmm.
What you do with that degree is
Yes.
the end game.
Yes.
And where you are able to turn that degree into impact, and then that impact to purpose, is the North
Mhm.
Star.
And that is, I just love that. And oftentimes, we don't know that the North Star is there.
No.
And we can look at it to help us. I remember when I started on my career, I really didn't know what I was going to do. I had started out thinking I was going to be a teacher, and I was going to be a great teacher because my mom was a terrific teacher. So
Okay.
that's what was going to do. But once I started practice teaching and got in the classroom, I found that wasn't me. Okay, that wasn't going to be me. And then Dr. Lisa, a sorority sister of mine, we sorors, one of my
Yes, yes,
sorors
yes.
came in and told me that had just been accepted at a college that was, a grad school that, was specializing in social work and community organization and policy and community development and community planning, and that I should go. So,
Okay.
Dr. Lisa, at the time, I didn't have a job. I needed to pay my bills. I was lost. So I said, listen, let me just grab at it. And so
Yeah.
I went, and I often tell people that I fell into my life's work.
Uh-huh.
It really wasn't, it was this career because I discovered my meaning
Mhm.
and how I could make a difference, which I think is what purpose is,
Yes.
what you're saying about the legacy
Yes.
and how do you find meaning in your life to make a difference. And I shared that because for those who, you know, who are struggling to figure it out, sometimes it'll just come to you. Sometimes you just have to be aware of it and know that, in fact, that North Star is up there
Oh,
and you
yeah.
can find it.
Oh, yeah.
And so, Dr. Lisa, what's been your experience with all of the women that you talk to in terms of this? Are they very defined and definite about their path and that North Star, or do they, like me, kind of stumble into it?
Well, I tell you, most of the women that come to me either are high achieving women that I
Okay.
tell you they have it going on. They really
Okay.
do.
Okay.
And some that you see every day on television and different places. So it's not like these women aren't doing great things. But what happens is a lot of us end up feeling stuck, that we're doing this
Okay.
routine and this
Hmm.
rote every day, right?
Okay.
And at the end of the day, it really is about, I believe, knowing what's meaningful to you,
Okay.
right? I think we have to stop and understand, and that's when they come and say, "Well, I'm stuck. Maybe I can't find my voice. Here's what's happening in my company. Here's what's happening in the organization," and we deal with all of that, but we
Hmm.
deal with it based on them. And I think that's what in fact, I know that's what they don't expect from me. And we're not dealing with all of that. We're talking about you, right? And
Right.
getting you
Right.
centered. And so that's why I told you it becomes raw, because we're at the point where I know I had this person in my life that helped me journey through to the C suite by making sure that I started to pick Lisa apart, and
Hmm.
the bumps and bruises and all the things that I looked in the mirror and didn't see, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so at
Yes.
the end of the day, what I work on and help us understand is ask yourself the question, am I being challenged every day?
Okay.
Am I growing? Right? Do I believe in the mission that I get up on every day? And if the answer to these things are no, all right, that you're
Okay.
just going in and you're doing what you do because it's routine, then we need to reevaluate and come back to think about, am I stuck? Should
Okay.
I be looking towards something else? And what's the difference between a job and a career and what
Uh,
it is I'm trying to get to, right?
okay.
And I make sure that we're not looking at the obvious things like salary, title,
Okay.
prestige of the company. We're not talking about those things,
All
right?
right.
We're talking
Okay.
about fundamentally beneath all of that, what's meaningful to you?
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
it can be a number of things, right? And so, how do I get unstuck as I work through going to work every day, hating what I do, dragging in every day, right? And yet
Okay.
at the same time, I'm wanting more, right? Well,
Yes.
you got to go back to what I said is
That
there's an action
pull.
plan that needs to be put
That's
in
right.
place.
Right.
And
That
when you
pull, passion, and prayer. Oh, yes.
those three
Yes.
things, but
Yes.
along with that, now we need to put the plan together. It's
Okay.
not going to happen by osmosis. And if it
Or
does happen,
overnight.
yeah, and it's not going to happen by osmosis. And if it does, you still need a plan.
Yes.
You still need a plan
Got it.
so that as Joyce Meyer says, and I love her. This is who I listen to a lot. Is, we're sitting here feeling stuck and pitiful, but you cannot be pitiful and powerful at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you're going to be powerful, then you need to take into your hands what you have to work with, which is the authenticity of yourself,
Yeah.
and build the action plan that's going to be consistent, that you commit to, and a promise of that goal that you're going after. What's your big promise goal is what I talk
Mm-hmm.
with you about,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Not all
Yes.
the little goals, because we all have little goals, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, we are lining our sight to the
The
top of
big
that
one.
pyramid that I talked
Okay.
about, which
Yeah.
is your North Star. How are we going to get there? And it might be, as I teach and talk with women, it might be the job is a part of that. That's one ladder on that pyramid, okay, of Maslow's hierarchy. It might be that you do some speaking engagements. That's the next part of what the ladder is. It might be that you do some mentoring. That's the third part. And all of that adds up to you. But
Powerful.
what are all of those skills and abilities leading to that's going to be meaningful, that you leave an impact? Remember the degree and the impact and the purpose? You have all of those things. Now, how are you going to take those things and ensure that it becomes a career that leads to your purpose? Now, some say
Fab-
that purpose and career don't match. Well, I believe that they do. I think that life, career, and purpose all goes together.
okay.
I don't know that I could ever separate my life, my career, and my purpose. I think it all blends, because
Okay.
that becomes ultimately the journey that you have lived on this earth.
Love it. And so, yes, so such powerful stuff you dropping with us, Dr. Lisa. Let me see if I can, summarize some just at least the last pieces of our conversation as we try to respond also to Chris, who says, I'm stuck and you speaking to me. Okay. So Chris, here's some steps that, clearly that that number one step about knowing yourself and of course becoming aware, and sometimes it gets raw, as Dr. Lisa said. Sometimes it's there, but you got to know you. Take that inventory, find out what you're good at, find out what your values are, your core. That's very important. And then a second piece that I think I heard too, Dr. Lisa, was very important, is that commitment, that motivation, being committed. I think of it also as not losing sight of where it is you want to go, that you got to keep on it and be motivated. And then that action plan, some specific steps that you're going to take to move you on your way. And those are some of the things that can help you move and get unstuck and define and find out this purpose. Well, Dr. Lisa, and this has just been an extraordinary conversation, but I don't want to leave until we get from you some words of encouragement to Chris and others who feel stuck
Okay.
in their career at this point?
Well, first of all, most of us have felt stuck at some point. Dr. Geneva, Dr. Lisa, and Oprah, all of us have felt stuck at some point. Do you know what I mean? So don't feel like you're in that space alone. But what I would say is, if you're tired of living paycheck to paycheck, feeling like and wishing that you were in a different place um, in the next phase of your life, the one thing I would say is you have to, one, get around people that are doing some of the things that you want to do. Ensure that you have some mentors and support people. And the most important of this thing called stuck is what I teach in my master class, which is don't accept limits that you impose on yourself or that you allow others to impose on you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to understand what those limits are, which again, there's a process for that. The first thing to getting stuck to me is confronting your limits.
Okay.
So you have to understand what the limits are. So, for example, let's say you want to start a new business and you're working every day. So you say, well, how am I going to start a new business and I got to go to work every day? I don't have time for this, right? Well, you're your first limit just because your mindset already says, how am I going to, right? And I believe I teach women and men that you have to start with the end in mind. So what does it look like when you get there? And if you
Mm-hmm.
understand what does it look like when you get there, then you can methodically walk your way back to the start place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that in order to get unstuck, we have to make a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And you might need a coach like Dr. Geneva or myself to
Mm-hmm.
walk you through because you already know what you want. Let me tell you what, I'm coaching you and I can tell you 100% that you already know what you want. You just can't see it. You can't see it. It's in you spiritually. But until you work with somebody that can help you see the forest, the trees instead of the forest,
Yes.
then and until then, you're going to have these limits. Now, limits are what I consider to be barriers. Barriers like I don't have the funds to start that business. Well, you're already at the fun part when you haven't even put the business plan together, right? So, what we have to do is take it one step at a time. And my philosophy for women that are stuck is you have to make sure you know that you are hunting for an elephant and not ants. If you're hunting for
Mm-hmm.
ants as you go through life, that means you're here, you're there, you're here, you're there, you're everywhere. You will not be able to see the elephant. And
Ah,
that's what you want to hunt for, an elephant. That's your big target,
that's a
that big
big
mountain
one.
goal,
That's
the
a
big
big
elephant. You
target.
want to make sure you got the target. And the target is to be able to shoot that elephant and hit it, right? But if you got busy trying to step on all the ants, you're never going to get there, right? And those
Mm-hmm.
are the limits that we're talking about. So I would suggest the first thing to do is take inventory of what limits you see, just basic limits that, one, I come home every day and I'm tired, right?
Uh-huh.
Two, I don't have enough help for childcare. And so I don't have the ability to focus on this. All those things that are in your mindset that's keeping you stuck, put them on a piece of paper and look at them. And then one by one, we can start to eliminate those
Okay.
barriers to your next step of getting to your destiny.
Fabulous. Just thank you.
You're
Just
welcome.
value laden. Just packing it in there, Soror. What can I say? Dr. Lisa Wicker, Master Career Strategist, author of Capacity, and someone who runs one of the best career summits around. Next one coming up in Atlanta in
Yes.
2023. Thank you
Yes.
so much for being our guest today on Ignite to Impact. Thank you.
You're
See you
welcome. You're welcome. I
soon.
think the one thing I want to leave them with,
Oh,
Dr.
yes,
Geneva,
please.
is
Yes.
the great Chinese philosopher, and the name slips me. I think it's Lao Tzu's. Is that knowing yourself is intelligence, Knowing yourself is true wisdom, right? Mastering others, however, is strength, but mastering yourself is true power. And
Wow.
when you master yourself, you're ready for your purpose.
Thank you, Dr. Lisa. On that note, we appreciate you. We'll see you soon.
Bye now. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So I told you it would be value packed, value laden tips and everything. And Chris, yes, this valuable information. We appreciate and thank Dr. Wicker for all that she left with us, all she, them gems, them steps of, hey, knowing yourself and being committed, following that North Star. So let me just say to you that whatever place you are in your life today, you can make a difference if you want to. You can do it. You, in fact, can create the life that you want to see. You can design and figure out the big things you want to go for, and you can develop an action plan to get there. And, when you wake up in the morning, you want to feel good about, who you are, what you've accomplished, and in fact, what you can do. And you want to be excited about life. So if you're interested in any of that, make sure you go check out the step-by-step guide to discovering and rediscovering how you can find your passions and invent or reinvent your success. So if you feel stuck, which all of us do at some time or another, in fact, I'll be stuck, frequently. And I know that when I am, it's a real deal place that I'm at, and I want to do something about it. And so oftentimes a step-by-step guide to how I can get out of the fog is what you need. And so creating the next you, go grab it. It's a great step-by-step guide to help you get unstuck if you feel that way. I am so glad you all joined with us today in this great conversation. Let me know, the kinds of topics that you want to see, you want to have us talk about as you think about your career, your business, your life. Because, I believe that, that vibrant life is there for you. And by the way, just as a PS, read my lips. This works for you. See you later.